Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, welcome back to Right on Track. I am super excited because back for round 2 is Madison Young. How are you, girl?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm really excited to sit and talk with you and be on here again. It was so much fun the last time, so thanks for having me back.
Of course, it definitely was super fun the last time, and today we're talking all about co-writing, and I had to have you on for this one because LA is doing fantastic, and that came out of a very successful co-write. So we're going to be talking all about how co-writes should go, from finding collaborators all the way up into finishing a song. And to kick this off, Madison is going to read a quote by Andrea Stolpe.
It's a lot like applying for a job over and over again. You start by writing with anyone who will write with you, and these can be wonderful relationships that persist over time as you rise up the industry ladder together. As you accumulate more experience, better songs and demos, those relationships lead to more relationships.
I love this quote, and the main point that she's saying that really jumps out at me is climbing up the industry ladder together. I think a lot of times we look to people above us that we really want to work with, but what's important is looking next to us and rising with the people that we can connect with and that we can build strong relationships with.
Definitely, and I love the kind of the deeper hidden message in that, we're all going to rise together. So there's no point in competing with each other. Let's just work together to become the best that we can be. And so I just love that quote. It's awesome.
It definitely is. And Andrea is fantastic. And we met through her, which is why we're talking about co-writing today, because without the retreat, I wouldn't have met you and we wouldn't have written LA. And so I'm really excited because we're going to be picking apart the main steps in a successful collaboration, starting off with step 1, which is finding collaborators. So Madison, where are some places you look to find potential co-writers?
There are so many different places, which is amazing. We met through Andrea's songwriting retreat, which was awesome because we learned as well as met each other and whatever. Other places that I find co-writers is via other songwriting friends of mine, friends of friends. I have some producer friends, and then they'll work with studio musicians or, other vocalists or whatever that also dabble in writing. And then live shows and, just live events in general, getting out there and seeing people play. Where are some places that you find co-writers?
A lot of the same places you've mentioned, retreats, other songwriting classes, and I think the whole thing with COVID restricting that whole in-person connection was really difficult, but hopefully this year I'll get out and meet people. And also just on social media, I think I've met a handful of collaborators on Twitter, and it's all just about connecting with other songwriters who are up and coming and keeping an eye on what they're doing. And if they're doing a similar genre to you or genre you're interested in working on, once you build that connection, you can reach out and say, hey, do you want to write a song? And something you said that really jumped out at me was kind of the people you know and friends of friends and that kind of thing. And that all comes down to relationships. And relationships are so important. That's what Andrea was saying too. The only way to really grow and build your network of songwriters is to continue to build those relationships and find other songwriters and collaborators. So it's really important to always have your eye out for people you can possibly work with.
Definitely. And a place that I didn't mention before, but that Andrea actually suggested to me, and hopefully once the world is completely back to normal, these will open again. But PROs, performance rights organizations, will often host monthly songwriting showcases, and BMI and ASCAP both have them. And this is a great place to go, even if you're personally not performing. If you go and watch those shows, you'll meet PRO reps, you'll meet other songwriters, you'll meet artists. So that was a really cool resource that she suggested that I check out. And I will definitely be doing that once those get started again, which will hopefully be soon.
So once we find possible collaborators, the next step is kind of realizing if they're good for us. Like, are we a good fit? And I know I personally look at some things before I even get on a Zoom or enter a room with somebody. And one of the main things for me is personality. I really want to work with somebody who is positive and excited about what they're doing, somebody who doesn't think they're superior in any way, but somebody who's eager to learn and build their network like I am. And so I feel like by looking at their social media and just listening to interviews they've done and that kind of thing, you can really gauge somebody's personality. And I kind of do that before I even take that step to ask to collaborate, because if they're a person I don't want to associate with, then I don't really want to go down that road.
I get you. Yeah, I am personally not on social media as much as I should be. And so I do know that there are a lot of other songwriters and musicians that are kind of similar to me and that they aren't on social media as much as they should be. And so for me, before I go into a co-write with somebody, if it's a friend of a friend, I always kind of do a little, chatting with my friend to make sure, see what they're like, see what their personality is. And then aside from that, I'll listen to, if they have music out, I'll listen to their music. And I know that I'm a strong melody and lyric writer, but I'm not as strong on the music side of things. And so when I'm listening to, music by somebody else, I'll point out things that I think could, be beneficial. We could, be mutually beneficial to each other. So if they have a great background, if they have great groove and great music, maybe we could be an awesome pair. Or you and I feel like we're both really strong melody and lyric writers. And so in some situations that doesn't work out because, people will butt heads, but we both have a cool personality. So it was actually really good because we could be like, well, actually, I think this line would be better here. And we're, able to say, oh, you're so right. Thanks for the feedback, So, so you just got to be, it takes a little bit to figure out who's going to work well with you. But, once you pick those people, really get to know them before you start writing, and hopefully it will be positive,
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to highlight something you brought up about, offering something to them and them offering something to you, because I feel like we all have something to offer in a songwriting session, and we want to look for people who can bring the other side of it or something that we're not as strong with. And so that's definitely something to look at, like you said, when you're finding collaborators. So after finding our collaborators and knowing they're good fits for us, the next big step, step 2, is getting in that first session. So Madison, what are some things that you look for and that you do before getting on Zoom for the first time or in a room with someone for the first session?
So I personally get together a list of ideas. It might just be a handful of titles. It could be a couple concepts. It could be some inspiration that, that I've been having, or a cool idea that I heard about or something like that. And I bring those in. When I go into the session, I do not expect to workshop any of those ideas. However, I want to be prepared in case that's a good starting off point for our session. So I never want to walk in expecting that we're going to work on something that I brought in, but I want to be prepared so that way I can be an asset to the group.
I love that. Yeah, that's very, very important. And I know for me too, when I start writing with somebody new, I definitely do exactly what you said. But on the other side of that, once I've written with somebody for a while, I've noticed I've kind of slacked a bit on that. And this is something you and I have talked about. After writing with somebody for a while and your friends, it's you get on Zoom or FaceTime, it's like, oh yeah, you want to write a song? I don't know. What do you want to write about? And it's that kind of thing where it's super lighthearted, but I feel like the pressure isn't there because you have to make a big first impression when you get on with somebody new. But if you wrote a kick-ass song with somebody you've already written with, then it's not OMG, what if I'm bad? Like, you know, you're good together. People have bad days from time to time, but that pressure isn't necessarily there like it was the first time.
So for LA Will Wait for Me, you and I'm assuming both went in with ideas for it, but we didn't even discuss those ideas. We just talked about our mutual interests and connections, and via that conversation found out that we had both had experiences in Los Angeles. So that's how that song came about. But other co-writers that I work with, we don't have as many similarities as you and I do. And so I found that bringing in those outside ideas can be really helpful to jumpstart that song process. So it definitely depends on who I'm working with, how close that connection is, and just how comfortable I am with the person.
Exactly, yeah. And you mentioned two things that I want to highlight here. Talking to somebody. Like when you walk into a first session or get on Zoom, don't expect to be like, all right, what do you want to write about? Because if you don't know that person, it's just kind of awkward at first. You need to get to know them. And that's what you and I did. We talked for literally 2 hours and then started writing LA. And I know other writers I've worked with, we've done the same thing. Sometimes the first day we're on Zoom, we don't even write anything. We just talk. And I think that's super, super important. And also, expectations as well. Like you said, you don't walk in expecting to work on one of your ideas. And I think we have to have open minds going into these sessions, and we can't go in with a big ego. I know Martin Sutton from the Songwriting Academy always says leave your ego at the door, which is like super accurate. Like you don't want to walk in thinking it's all about you. You don't want to walk in thinking like, okay, I have this awesome idea and this is what we're doing. So yeah, definitely don't have high expectations and just go in and talk to somebody.
Definitely. And I think one of the hidden benefits of co-writing is that it really helps you grow as a songwriter yourself. And so if you go into a co-write with a super high ego and everything has to be your way or the highway, then you're not going to grow and become a better writer. And people aren't going to want to work with you anymore. And so it's really important that when you walk into that room that you are open to any and all ideas, and you're easy to work with, and you're wanting to hear the ideas of other people and not just write the whole song yourself, because otherwise why are you co-writing? Like if you're gonna write the whole song yourself, go do that. Don't go into the room with other people.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And that's a perfect segue into the next big step, step 3, which is, what goes down? The do's and don'ts. Like once you start actually writing the song, what should you do and what shouldn't you do? So let's start off with the positives. What do you look for in other collaborators, and what do you personally do when you're writing a song?
So when I go into a session, I do bring in ideas and I do listen to all the ideas of my other collaborators. When we're talking, I also kind of listen for any inspiration that comes out of the conversation that we're having. I also, if they show me a musical idea or a lyric idea, a phrase, whatever, in the moment I'm respectful of what they have brought in, but I also try to let them know any other ideas that could go along with that. So if they show me a minor chord progression, I would think in my head as I'm listening to that, okay, this could go in a sad direction, this could go in a mysterious direction. And so I offer those ideas. So that way we not only have, the one idea that they brought in to work on, but then we actually have some other starting points for multiple songs. So that way you're providing more for future sessions, and you're showing that you're willing to work with them a little bit more because you have all of these different ideas. I'm also, I'm personally in my off time kind of more of an introvert, but when I walk into a co-writing session, I know that I need to be open and flexible and awesome to work with. And so I'm going to be a little bit more chatty and more accommodating than I might be in my normal everyday state. Because, we want to make you want to have a welcoming environment. And so if you walk into a co-write and somebody is, if you're talking and the other person's just going, yep, sure, yep, like that's not welcoming to me. So, I like to be a little bit more open about what I say.
I love everything you said, and I also want to highlight again flexibility, because you have to be flexible with the other's ideas, but you also need to be flexible with the song itself. Everything you do should be for the song, and if something's not working for the song, you have to speak up and be like, yeah, I don't really see contrast between the verse and chorus. What if we try something else? Or say you're working on the verse for like a really long time and it's not really getting anywhere. Be the person to say, hey, you know what? Why don't we take a look at the chorus now? Like, I always try to be the one. I don't like to take control necessarily, but if there's a songwriter I'm working with who doesn't really, take the lead in certain things, I kind of keep my eye on the song specifically, and if things aren't going smoothly, I kind of suggest to direct it and go different places to kind of get that spark again. Because if you are stuck on a line, I know personally when I'm writing by myself, if I'm stuck on a line, I just get like so out of the inspiration, I can't do it anymore. And sometimes just switching to a different song section or going to the music rather than lyrics or vice versa can really help to get that flow again.
Oh, definitely. Like, not to do a little personal story in here, but with our last song that we worked on, which was not LA Will Wait for Me, hee hee. With our last song that we worked on, you were, we had approached that second verse and you were like, oh, I do not like second verses. And that was the moment where I was like, oh no, this is my time to shine. I got you. So we wrote the second verse and then we moved on to an area that was the bridge, more of your, strong suit. And so I think that's also part of it as you get to learn your co-writers more and what their strong suits are. It's how to, handle, okay, this is kind of your, I'm going to back off here, but, oh, this is my strong suit. I'm going to take the lead a little bit here. And that just comes with knowing your co-writers and their strengths.
Right, and it's also just the tip overall of be aware. Like, be aware to your co-writers, be aware to the song, be aware of everything going on. Because when you're aware, like you said before, with catching other ideas that might not work for the song but could be used for other songs, inspiration comes from random places. And if you're aware in the session, you might catch something really subtle and it might spark something huge. But if you're not actively listening or truly engaging in the session, you'll miss those things. So just be aware and be active in the whole experience.
Yeah, I love that. And especially like being actively engaged in that, especially on these Zoom co-writes through everything right now. Nothing makes me lose inspiration more if I'm in the middle of writing, talking to a fellow co-writer, and then like in the middle of my sentence they'll be like, oh, hold on, I gotta go do something, and I'm like, yo, I'm talking to you right now, I'm trying to write with you, why aren't you paying attention to me? So just being like actively engaged in that moment, and being respectful of everybody's time that that's there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think after what you just said about somebody literally walking away, I'd be like, what the hell, bro? Like, are you writing a song or not? And I think like we can transition into the don'ts now because that's a nice little transition. I'm gonna give it a little example here. All right, Madison, you and I are currently in a co-write. All right, just say a random idea.
Starry Night.
Uh, Actually, I don't like that at all. That sucks.
Oh, okay. Well,
that is a great example of what not to do.
I thought you were actually telling me that at first. Like, you were, like, about to say, like, can you come up with something else? This is not going to work for the example. And I was like, oh, okay, I suck.
Right. Now, how do you feel, Madison? Would you want to write with me anymore? And how would you feel about your confidence moving forward?
No, I feel like every time I would suggest something, you would have that same reaction. And so it's like, why? Like, I'm just not going to offer any ideas anymore. Like, you just take over.
Yeah, no, so don't be rude to people. I actually did a co-write with somebody who I still write with now, but I feel like we had to get past the point, I'm not going to say names, but she was kind of like, she didn't really talk down on me, but she just kind of brushed aside all my ideas. And you know me, I'm like, you know what, I have every right to be here, my ideas are important. I didn't say any of that aloud, but in my head, I'm like, I'm going to make her think I'm worthy. So I kind of said something like offhandedly, and she like stopped and was like, oh wow, that's a really good idea. And then like after that we were fine. So I think like if you're in a situation like that, well, not straight up telling somebody they suck, like don't do that. But if somebody kind of puts your ideas down, don't necessarily lose confidence, just like, keep sharing your ideas and make them believe that you're good enough. Don't just walk away and let them think that you're not good enough.
I like what you just said, don't just walk away. For me, if I'm in a co-write that, I feel belittled in, or it's just not going well, it don't just walk away from that, even if it's going awful. Personally, for me, I would rather, just finish the song, get through it, and then after that point, just be like, okay, I'm not going to write with them again, then kind of do this whole big dramatic scene, because I know that, I want to be regarded as somebody that's great to work with, and even if I'm doing a fantastic job in the co-write, like, even if I'm not the issue in that moment, you still have to handle that, situation with grace, so that way afterward that person doesn't go around saying that you were the problem. So just value the relationship, do it for the relationship, and then if the co-write doesn't go well, just know, okay, I'm not going to write with them again, but at least I made that connection.
Right. Yeah, and I'm all for giving second chances too. Like, it could have just been a really bad day for them. I've been on co-writes with people who, like, we've written really good in the past, and then it was just a bad day, and we didn't get anywhere, and they were cranky, and I'm like, I know you're a really nice person. I know that you're not like this all the time. Let's just stop for now and come back again. So I think another thing to remind yourself is, like, don't force something. If it's not working well in that session, maybe try it another day. If it's the idea that's not working, then drop the idea and try something else. Don't force something when you know it's not going to work.
Another quick thing that I just thought about while you were talking was, don't cancel at the last minute every time. Every once in a everybody has something that they go through, and if it's every once in a while, like, no big deal. I understand. If it's every single week, you're texting me 5 minutes before the session saying, hey, I can't come today, can we push it a couple days? Then that just kind of, in my head, puts a strain on the co-writing experience, because both of our time is valuable. So, like, let's respect each other of our time. But I of course understand if it's a every once in a while emergency, or not even emergency, every once in a while, and you need a moment. You can't write. You're not in the right headspace. I totally understand. But every week it's not fun.
I felt that on a spiritual level because that's happened to me before.
Same. Yeah.
And it's like, why? Like, treat it as a job. If you walked into work late every single day, your butt would get fired. And guess what? If you keep doing that to me, if you keep scheduling time and then canceling last minute or not showing up, guess what? I'm firing you as a co-writer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love you as a person. You're great. Not you, Demi. I mean, just hypothetical person that's co-writer. Love you as a person, but you're a freaking flake. Like, I'm not going to write with you if you're going to flake every time. No, yeah. You're great. You're always at every session. You're awesome.
Right. Yep, I am. That's how I always am. Like, just be organized, too. Like, don't come in as a mess, And also, one other thing, too, I want to add is try not to say no. And this is another big thing. We were talking about listening to others' ideas, but it's easy to kind of jump in and say, no, that's not going to work. Let's try this. But you never know. So always give things a chance. Even if you truly believe in your heart that that's not going to work, try it. Don't say no. Just try it and see.
Well, it's also, which kind of, comes out to our next talking point, it also comes down to what the song is ultimately going to be. If you're just writing a song for fun together, no intention of putting it out or anything like that, it might be in your best interest for the relationship to say, okay, sure, like, let's go along with that idea, even if it's not something you're crazily passionate about. But I mean, if it's a song that you're hoping to get cut, somebody put out, if it's something that you are personally going to put out, then in that case, I think don't ever say no, but, try to find a way to work around ideas that you might not be as passionate about,
Right, exactly. And no is just such a strong word. Like, just phrase it differently. Be like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to work. What if we try this? Or, yeah, I really like that idea, but for this song, maybe that's not the best option. Let's try this. Because if you say no to somebody, that just deflates their self esteem, and they're going to be maybe not as willing to share their ideas.
Definitely. And I love what you said. What if we try this instead? Love that idea. I don't think it works here. Maybe in this song or maybe in this section, you know? So just being accommodating.
Okay, so now let's move on to step 4, which is what to do with the song. So you found an awesome collaborator, you hit it off in that first session, and you did everything you should do and avoided the things that you shouldn't do, and now the song is done after you've revised it a couple times and got it to where it needs to be. So, Madison, first let's talk about splits. Personally, for me, if I'm going to co write with somebody and we equally contributed, 50-50, no question.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm someone that if I'm in a co-writing session, doesn't matter. Personally, doesn't matter to me if the person contributed one line or, you know, a whole verse or whatever. I want to give an equal share to everybody because, you know, even if I came up with the lyrics, I guarantee that other person helped me, you know, come up with those or helped, you know, the flow of the room in some way. So I'm personally an equal share, you know, kind of person in the songwriting splits. That's not the case for everybody though. For some people, they do break it up by how much of the song was written, or you know how much somebody contributed to the song. But that's something that you should discuss with your co-writers even before you start writing, kind of what the vibe about splits is. And then, you know, if you decide before you even start writing that it's equal down the board, get it in writing and stick with that. If you guys decide that it depends on how much you are, you know, contributing, write that down, you know, word for word that, and then at the end you guys can decide together. But bottom line, get it in writing because, you know, God forbid there's a legal thing later on, but you just want to have it all in writing so there's no disputes.
Exactly, yeah, and there are such things called songwriter split sheets. Do them, just put your PRO down, put your email, your number, what percentage of the song you get. So it's all there. Everybody has the information because this is the thing. If we just write a song, you and I just wrote a song, we did 50-50 split. We're cool, that's fine. But say there wasn't a split sheet, and say in this session I wrote more than you did, but we never had a split sheet, but we just kind of had it in our heads 50-50. Say that song goes double platinum and we don't have a split sheet or we never figure that out. I'm not going to be the kind of person and be like, oh yeah, I wrote more, but sucks for you, Madison. I don't care about you. I'm getting more. I'm not going to be like that, but there are people who are like that. And that's where you have to get in writing. Like if there's a co-writer who did more, and if the song gets cut or if it hits big, then they're going to come after you saying, hey, I want more of that. And nobody wants any of that. And that's the thing. It's a sad thing, but this is what a lot of professionals say too. Nobody really cares if it doesn't go anywhere, but as soon as it hits, that's when everybody wants their share. And that includes production too, session players, whatever. And so you have to make sure you got it in writing. I'm paying you for hire, your work for hire. This is all you're getting. If the song hits, you're not getting any more. The co-writers, we're doing 50-50. That's it. No matter what we contributed, if the song hits. So you have to have it all in writing. So now let's talk a little bit about what to do with the song. So let's do another role play. Ready? Hey, Madison, I absolutely love this song. What should we do with it?
I mean, I was going to put it out as my own personal artist self, so.
But guess what?
What?
I just got an email from Kelsey Ballerini's manager, and she's interested in recording it. How cool is that?
I mean, that's pretty cool, but I was going to put it out myself. So.
But it's Kelsey Ballerini. We could have, like, a top 40 song on the radio.
But you don't think that I could have a top 40 song on the radio? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Oh my god. Oh. Okay, so there, guys. That's something that definitely could happen. No, but that's the thing. There are some people who, if there's an artist in the room, they could assume it's for them. But if a mainstream artist wants it, if there's an artist in the room, they can say no, and they have a say in that because they co-wrote it. So that's an issue, and that's why I think, like, also, when you start writing with somebody, this is another thing to maybe talk about beforehand. If there's an artist in the room, if they're looking to get a song for an album or a single or whatever, then everybody in the room is writing for them. But if you just write a song without any intention for somebody in the room, then I don't really think somebody can hold on to it like that. But there definitely are people like that, so be aware of that.
Yeah, because even though, even if I go in saying I'm songwriter Madison, not artist Madison, each songwriter has to give their consent before an artist, cuts it. And so personally, if I go in as songwriter Madison, I'm not gonna, myself gonna lay claim as an artist. But there are definitely people that will do that, if they truly want it for themselves. So you just got to be careful with that and discuss before, writing if that's, even an option, if you're writing for an artist project or not.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think what you and I did is like a great example because we wrote LA. That wasn't intended to be released or anything when we wrote it. But as the months went on, I was like, I really want to record this. And what did I do? I asked you, hey, Madison, can I record it? And you're like, yeah, sure. So that's like a perfect real life example of, the perfect opportunity and the perfect situation because you didn't give me crap. You weren't like, no. And then I would have been like, but why not?
Can you imagine if I had said no? Wow. Okay, sorry. That was off topic.
If you would have said no, I probably would have asked you multiple times until you gave in. No, this is what I would have done. If you would have said no, I would have asked, hey, well, if I can't record it, what are your ideas for what we can do with it? If nobody has an idea of who to pitch a song to, then that's not ever really an issue. But if someone has somebody in mind that they think would be a good fit or they know would like that song because they're looking for something, that's a different story. But I think for us, we didn't have any other artists in mind at the time, and you weren't recording it, so, I was the only one at that time looking to record that.
Well, it's also if you're going to write a song, you want an artist to cut it. You don't want to just, in some cases you'll write a song and you say that was fun, not going to do anything with this because the song didn't, come out to as high as standards as you were hoping. But the end goal for any song is to have it cut. You want the world to hear it. And so if an artist asks to cut that song and you say no, you better have a backup plan because your fellow co-writers are going to be upset.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the timer went off a hot minute ago, so let's wrap up. So let's share our final points about co-writing. One of mine is always have fun. Don't walk in having it in your head that we're going to write a Billboard #1. That's not what happens when you get into a co-write. It's about having fun because as soon as there's some kind of pressure, then that just completely stops the flow of inspiration. So just go in with the mindset of having a good time and writing a great song.
Definitely. And one of mine is work with writers that compliment you and you compliment them, either personality wise, writing wise, genre wise, just in some way make sure that you guys compliment each other because then you'll have the most successful co-write that you can.
Great one. All right, let's share one more. Okay, so my last one is not every song is going to be a great song. And I think that's what we all need to remember both when we're writing alone and with others, because if you're in a co-write and the song doesn't go well, don't get discouraged because there's always another day and there's always another song to write. So yeah, just remember that not every single song you write is going to be a great one.
Yeah. And then my final one is be easy to work with, be flexible, be accommodating, and just be somebody that is known for being a great co-writer.
And that was 4 more, so fantastic.
They're all under the same umbrella, though, so.
Oh, thank you so much, Madison, for being on. It was really fun. role playing and giving each other crap because we never do that IRL.
No, neither of us are that rude in person. So that was kind of a fun acting moment.
Well, this was fantastic. I loved talking about co-writing with you because we had a very successful co-write with our little LA will wait for me, and I'm sure we will have many more. So thank you again for being on. Before we go, can you share with the listeners where they can find you on social and listen to your music?
Sure. I am Madison Young on all streaming platforms. And on Instagram, I am madison.rayanne. That's Raeanne. And you can find my other social media links from there. But thank you so much for having me, Demi. I had so much fun.
Of course, thank you for being on again. This was awesome. To everybody listening, happy co-writing. And of course, until next time,
Stay right on track.